All right. Hello again. Welcome back to another Cutty's Corner podcast. That's what I'm going with right now. So today I got a little late to the action here, but I'm going to be kind of doing a recap of week one of the Iowa and Iowa State football games this past Saturday. Of course, it's Friday, so tomorrow is the game between the two teams. Iowa and Iowa State play tomorrow. Biggest holiday in the state of Iowa for sure. It's a little late, so I mean, if you end up listening to this next week or whatever, at least maybe you can laugh at my takes on the teams or laugh at my prediction. If you'll listen to it before game time tomorrow, good for you. I mean, you're up to date on these things. I wouldn't, but appreciate it though. If there's a weird noise in the bathroom, that's my washer. It off and on kind of sounds like death. I mean, it works, but which is good. So I watched a little bit of both games. I was out of town on Saturday. I was in Council Bluffs, actually. Spent time with family and a friend. We were golfing, so I was watching in and out of the Iowa game, and a little bit of the Iowa State game. But I ended up just going back and watching the condensed games, so I watched every play, see what I could take away from it with my wondrous football knowledge built on, watching football for most of my life and also playing the difficult sport of 8-man football in a small town in Iowa. So let's dive in here. I'll go over Iowa first and then go over Iowa State and then kind of how they match up and what I think the score is going to be, and it's going to be it. Hopefully I won't go ramble too long. So let's dig in with the Iowa versus Utah State game last Saturday. I think overall, it was kind of an underwhelming game. I mean, the score ended up a lot closer than it probably really was, just because they did drive down and score a touchdown on Iowa's second-team defense, and Iowa took McNamara out in the fourth quarter after that last touchdown. I think it could have been worse. They did not get 25 points like they needed for Brian Ferentz's contract, but they did get a win, and I'm sure if they get 7 or more wins, they'll keep them. I really don't. It's just ridiculous, but this is definitely a team that definitely could have scored some points on. I think they Utah State played a pretty solid game. Their offensive game plan was pretty clear. Get the ball out quick, a lot of screens, a lot of quick hitters in the pass game. I mean, I think their quarterback, I think his name's Lega, he threw like 40-some passes for only 220 yards. So that was their game plan. They didn't want to mess around with much play action or anything, as they knew how good Iowa's defensive line was and the front seven in general. So for the most part, Iowa just had a 5-man box. They had the 4 down linemen, and then Jay Higgins was in the box. And Jay Higgins, heck of a game, heck of a first start, man. He was awesome. He was everywhere. But I mean, overall, just kind of underwhelming. Big takeaways, obviously. The offensive line looked pretty good in pass protection, but not very good in run game. I just think they look bad in the run game, and it's just discouraging. It's like you're going up against a Mountain West team And it's like you should be able to, just based on talent alone, in my opinion. You're a Big Ten school. You're an offensive line factory. Mind you, the offensive line has not been the same since Chris Doyle was fired. But, like, just based on talent alone, you should be able to overpower. You should be able to average 3 yards a carry against a Mountain West school. I don't care who they are. Based on talent alone, your offensive line should overpower the defensive line of a Mountain West school enough to average 3 yards a carry. And I know sacks are factored in, but that shouldn't matter. You should still average at least 3 yards a carry. And we didn't even average 3 yards a carry. It was like 2.5 or something. It was bad. McNamara, we're going to go into that. Obviously, he's still a little hurt, and probably something that'll just, if he doesn't actually sit out for a few weeks or maybe more, it's just going to be a reoccurring thing. If you listen to like Iowa Everywhere podcast, Chris Williams, Chris Hassel, John Miller, if you listen to that, some of these points over the entire thing that I go over is either views that I share or build upon with those podcasts, so sorry if that's repetitive. But yeah, I think McNamara looked good. I mean, I think they were protecting him in the play calling. Not a ton of play action. A lot of shotgun, which makes sense. But man, it was nice to see. It was nice to see like a competent, accurate quarterback playing quarterback for the Iowa Hawkeyes. He looked natural. The ball, I mean, yeah, he made a few interesting throws, but like, I mean, compared to Spencer Petras, where every throw was an interesting throw, like I think we'll take what we can get. I think he had a good game overall. It's just that quad, and whether it's ever going to be fully healthy this year, which if he's playing every single week, it probably won't be. But yeah, I mean, the game started out with a bang. Caleb Johnson had a long kick return, and then, of course, Seth Anderson, big-time touchdown catch from McNamara, lost the defender. The defender slipped probably, but he's wide open. I mean, just like about as beautiful as a start as you could possibly have gotten. Started off quick, had then on their first like full drive, they ended up scoring another touchdown. I mean, it looked like they were going to blow them out, you know. And then, you know, and I'm not surprised they let off the gas pedal, but I think it wasn't just that. I think the offense, they just struggled to run the football consistently. So, like, obviously, when you struggle to run the football consistently, your offense isn't going to be consistent. That's just how it is. And McNamara's good, but he's not going to throw for 350 yards a game and carry the offense, especially when he's got a bad leg. So, you know, I think just a few plays I saw early on. It was a 3rd and long. They ran a halfback screen to Jazz Patterson, our third running back, and that looked really nice. It was really well executed. He ended up picking up the first down. He was involved in the passing game a little bit. I think he finished with 2 catches, and that's going to be interesting to see how they utilize all their running backs. I think the running back room's pretty good. Caleb Johnson is very talented. He just needs some holes, because I think last year I would notice he obviously very good, and when he hit the hole, like when he gets to the second level, he can, you know, make a guy miss. He can run over a guy. He can stiff arm a guy. Like, he's dangerous on the second level for sure, like any good running back is. But yeah, you know, he needs that initial hole, obviously, and the offensive line just didn't provide that enough. They went with Mason Richmond, Nick DeYoung, on the left side, Logan Jones at center, and then Connor Colby and Jennings Dunker on the right side. I did see Rusty Feth play quite a bit. Other than that, I know Bo Stevens was injured, so he didn't play. Oh! And another bomb for Jason Dominguez. This kid. Well, this is just fun. I'm watching the Yankee game right now, and our young budding star is fun to watch. Anyways, but that halfback screen was executed well. Jet sweep. I also put in parentheses around the jet sweep because it worked good twice. They ran it to the same person 3 times, and I just feel like they think that's such a creative play because I put most creative play in the playbook next to that jet sweep because they ran it good twice, and I think on the second time they ran it, Caden Wetjen, who's former walk-on. I don't know for sure. He did play at like Iowa Western for a year, and like he's obviously got some wheels and some good. Must have a good background in ball carrying. He looked natural doing it. But yeah, I just think it's funny that that's their most creative play, and then also like they run it to the same person 3 times, and he's not a starting wide receiver, so it's like if other teams see that in film and they see him come into the game, they're like, oh, I wonder what he's gonna do, and that's just my simple football mind thinking that way. I mean, obviously there's different ways another team can see it, different ways you can slice it up, but that's the way I see it. I just think it's funny. So McNamara had 2 touchdowns, one to Seth Anderson, one to Eric All. So that was cool that 2 of our transfers came in and got receiving touchdowns the first game. I loved the play to Eric All. I think it was 4th down. Maybe it was 3rd and goal, but it was at least 3rd and goal. But it might have been 4th and goal and they brought Eric All out of the fullback spot and did a little he ran a chip block and then popped out into the flats, and there was a nice little touch pass by McNamara. I like that play a lot, where you bring him out of the backfield, because with all the tight end talent Iowa has this year, they can do a lot of that kind of stuff. So I'm pretty excited about that. And Seth Anderson, he had that big touchdown to start. That was just nice to see. Transfers come in and make an impact right away. I'm not going to talk too much about the defense. I'll get into it more when I talk about the game prediction itself. But Higgins was everywhere. That was cool to see. Xavier Nwampa had a nice interception. I think some people are disappointed in Nick Jackson, the linebacker transfers game, but he had to be in pass coverage a lot, and I don't think that's fair to judge him on that game when he's in pass coverage much more than he probably will be this season. But Higgins looked great, man. He was everywhere, flying to the ball, making tackles. What a dude. I don't know. Cooper DeJean dropped a pick 6. But I'm not really worried about the defense. They scored 6 points against the starting defense. Iowa's defense is built on letting the short plays go because they know they're sure tacklers and they'll keep everything in front of them. Every now and then, somebody's gonna, get burnt and you'll give up one or two, maybe two big plays a game. But I'm all right with what the defense did. They didn't get many sacks because, like I said, Utah State's game plan was to quick hitters in the pass, a lot of quick hitters in the pass game, a lot of screens. They knew they weren't going to run the football all that well, and they just a lot of screen passes, a lot of short, quick throws to get the ball out quick. And they did have a mobile quarterback, which I think that guy's going to have a good year in the Mountain West, and I could be wrong, but he's athletic, he's got a quick trigger, looked fairly accurate for the most part, and he's like a 5th-year senior. I think he's going to have a nice year in the Mountain West. One thing that just got to me is Iowa had a 4th and 1, and they don't even get close to it, right? They run, your typical halfback dive or power, whatever you want to call it, right up the middle. They don't even get close. against the Mountain West team. There was no push at all from the offensive line or anything. And usually in the past, we'd put our big 6'5", 240-pound quarterback under center, and they'd run a sneak, and they'd get the 4th and 1, obviously. But, McNamara's not that big, and McNamara's hurt right now. Or McNamara, I don't know exactly how you pronounce it. It's probably McNamara. But they're not going to do that with McNamara right now. And so they run it, and no push from the offensive line on that. It's like, that should be your pride and joy as an offensive line. That's your shining moment to show off your robust strength. I don't know. But show off. And all you have to do is get a yard as an offensive line, tight end crew, fullback, and just create a push of a yard, and your running back will get it. Like, it's just so frustrating. And then I see Utah State run a beautiful little read option and get a 4th down conversion. It was 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, and they ran a read option, and it was a good play call, I think, because I was expecting that to go right up the middle. They pull it out. It's a good read by Laga, the quarterback, and he got a first down. But it just irks me that we can't get that first down in a short yardage situation. And there goes, Utah State getting it pretty easily, honestly. And that's not a jab at the defense. That's just a jab at the O-line and the offense and the play calling and all that. It just bothered me. That bothered me. And I think at the end of things, I think the defense just needs to capitalize on dumb mistakes. And it's week 1, so and a lot of new players on this team with transfers and impact freshmen and players who are like getting their first real snaps as Hawkeyes. And the special teams didn't look great either, which is a rarity. I wouldn't count on that happening 2 weeks in a row or very much this season. I won't get into that too much, but they just need to capitalize on dumb mistakes. I think there was a lot of flags by Utah State, like stupid flags, whether it was a personal foul, whether it was defensive holding, or just some other stuff, and then giving Iowa more chances to score or get closer to scoring, and Iowa wasn't capitalizing. I think at the end of the first half definitely should have scored a touchdown, and they ended up settling for a field goal, even though Utah State gave multiple chances to score, including a penalty that kept the drive going. They're late. So that's kind of my analysis on the Hawkeyes. I thought it was underwhelming, but I'm not too upset about it. But of course, we'll find out a lot more about what the offense is going to be this coming week against a very talented and very good Iowa State defense. All right, let's get rolling on the Iowa State side of things as they played the pride of Cedar Falls, the Northern Iowa Panthers. Always seemingly a challenge for Iowa State and Iowa sometimes, don't get me wrong. Iowa State's had more of a closer storied history with the Panthers, and a lot of, you mentioned you and I to start off this season, or even in like week 3 or something, and Iowa State fans definitely get nervous about that, which fair. I mean, Mark Farley's, is it Mark Farley? Mark? It might not be right. Anyway, he's a good coach, good football coach. He probably won't ever be fired. He'll have to decide he's done there. Shoot. That's how this year's going for the Yankees, man. It'll just be like, we got a two-run homer, and then the very next half inning, the other team gets a 2-run homer. Like, just go in there and get a shutout. Anyway, gosh, I was rewatching that Iowa State game, going in and watching the condensed game. Man, that defense is flying around. They are aggressive. They're hitting hard. Man, I mean, obviously they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. You don't really need any extra motivation when you're playing Iowa. If you're Iowa State, same thing with Iowa, playing Iowa State. But I mean, Iowa State's thought of to be the little brothers, so they're always gonna have that extra little motivation against the Hawkeyes. And obviously, they snapped their six-game losing streak against Iowa last year in that beautiful 10-7 ball game. And I trust me, I don't think this year will be all that different. But I mean, just like they were flying around early. Yeah, they had some not smart penalties early on, but then they got that pick six where, I mean, Jeremiah Cooper, who had 2 picks on the day, just took that away from that wide receiver. Just ran in front, just snatched it right out of his hands, and then took it all the way back. So that defense it looked great to me, just flying around, and the extra chip on their shoulder, I think, is just obviously everybody thinking they're not going to win like any games this year because they lost so many starters to gambling. Obviously, there's Matt Campbell showing what a good recruiter he is and his staff is, what his new staff has done with this group of guys, and what a good coach he is. And I'm not saying they're going to go crazy this year. I think they still lack the same kind of punch on offense they've had in the past. But I'm not going to count out them, maybe getting to a bowl game. But I definitely like all the outsiders saying that, all the media saying they're going to go 0-12 or 2-10 or 1-12 or 3-9. It's just not going to happen. I think they'll get at least 5 wins this year. And I think kind of reassured that watching this game. They did have a lot of early flags, but it's week 1 on a pretty young team, honestly. And then the special teams looked phenomenal for Iowa State. Punter did great, kicker did great. A couple of big punt returns for Jalen Noel. I mean, a heck of a lot different from last year when special teams a lot of times was one of the biggest reasons they were losing games, or the reason they were losing games. So defense is going to be great again. It'll probably be a top 10 defense. Probably the best defense in the Big 12, or contend to be one of the best defenses in the Big 12. But there's a lot, like, just dudes on that defense. Onyemata, he's a freak on that defensive line, physical freak. Dominic Orange is a big guy, was a really good recruit that they landed, and looks like he's developed well. Obviously the secondary is terrific. Jeremiah Cooper and TJ Tampa. I mean, TJ Tampa could have been drafted in the first 2 rounds if he went this past year. He'll probably be top 2-round draft pick this coming draft. But he's really good. Malik Verdone is like that linebacker safety hybrid type, big dude. He's like 6'4", 220, but he's quick. He's another hard hitter. Trying to think. Of their other, anyway, their linebacker core is really young. They got the dynamic duo of Hammond and Bacon, but which is awesome. I saw Bacon got a sack. That's great. But they, so that'll be interesting to watch. But I think their linebacker core is still going to be good, obviously. But just with the physicality and the talent on the D line, and then obviously the seasoned veteran Miles Purchase and Bo Freiler. There's the other 2 defensive backs. The really terrific secondary they have. Obviously the linebacker course technically the weakness if you had to pick one, but so it'll be interesting to see what effect that has on the game tomorrow. But that defense is good and it's going to be good. If the special teams plays like that all year, it really all lines up with how good the offense can be and what is the ceiling on that offense like. And here's kind of my analysis. It's tough to take away and forecast a prediction after 1 week, especially when that week was against an FCS opponent. I know Northern Iowa is a really solid FCS program, but nonetheless they are FCS. So, but Iowa State did their job. They took care of business. The offense did their job. They controlled the ball. They did their best to establish the run. But I thought Brody Breck. Sorry, that's a pitcher for Iowa, former wide receiver. Rocco Becht. I thought Rocco Becht looked really solid. And I think he should, I know they were working J.J. Cole in a little bit. And I think J.J. Cole in 1 or 2 years is going to be a dude, slinging around. And obviously, he ran the ball a few times. I'm like, oh man, this guy's a pretty good athlete too. He took some hits. I was like, I shouldn't be taking those hits. But he had a nice little day running the football. But yeah, I think in a year or two, J.J. Cole is the man, and he's going to be a stud. But Rocco Becht, I think, is just one of those dudes. He's not elite in any sort of category as a quarterback. Other than, I don't know the guy, and I've only seen him play one game. But, but he's a coach's kid. His dad played in the NFL. Obviously, his football IQ is great. He got in a little bit of game action last year. But I think this guy's just one of those dudes. He's not super special in any category. It's not like his arm strength is great. His accuracy is phenomenally pinpoint. Though I thought his accuracy looked good. It's not like he's super quick or super agility. He doesn't have amazing size. But I think he's just somebody who's a baller. He's a football player. He's a baller, and he's just gonna make things work. Think of a Baker Mayfield light version. It's kind of the comparison I came up with. I'm not saying he's gonna be Baker Mayfield or anything, but just Baker Mayfield. He's not a guy who really was amazing. Talent-wise, was amazing talent. He just had great football IQ. Was a workhorse, obviously off the field. An emotional leader, and it just was a baller. He was aggressive, and he just things worked. Sometimes it didn't look right, it didn't look great, but it worked, And I think myself, I've played with players like that before, where nothing they do looks especially good, but they're just a baller, and they have that mentality that it's just gonna work, and they have confidence. And I think Beck's very confident. And the last touchdown pass he threw to Benjamin Brahmer, I think he's a freshman tight end, was a dime with a big old defensive lineman right in his face and crushed him. But Beck stayed in there and delivered a dime for the 36-yard touchdown pass. So I think Beck needs to be the guy. Just have J.J. Cole there to be, I don't think there's any need to, unless Beck's really, really struggling or gets hurt or something, I don't think there's any need for J.J. Cole to play against Iowa. Because I think Beck maybe is more ready for that environment. I don't know. And maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe they play J.J. Cole. Maybe they do the both QBs again, and J.J. Cole ends up torching Iowa. I don't know, but that's just the way I see it. I was impressed with Beck. He looked good. The running back room for Iowa State's very talented. Cartavius Norton is a load. He's a hard-hitting back, especially when he gets into that second level. I'll be interested to see the matchup between him and Jay Higgins, Iowa linebacker, going head-to-head there. Trading hard hits back and forth. That'll be fun. and like Sebastian Castro, who's the cash position for Iowa, and Nick Jackson, the other linebacker. I think that'll be a lot of fun to see. And then Abu Sama's obviously ultra talented, such an underrated recruit. I mean, you just watch him, like that first run he had, or maybe it was his second run. His long run of the day was just like 18 yards. I think he bounced it outside. I think it was a stretch play, but he bounced outside, made a guy miss, broke a tackle, stiff-armed a guy, made another guy miss, and then stiff-armed another guy. The second guy he stiff-armed was a defensive lineman, and he just put him on his back so easily. I was like, oh my goodness, who is this guy? Well, I mean, I know who he is. Put up like 450 yards and 6 touchdowns in a state football game last year. But and then you got like Eli Sanders too, and so really talented running back room there. So it's up to that. I mean, and once again, and it comes down to the offensive line for Iowa State. You know, they lost Jake Remsburg off that O-line from last year, obviously with the gambling, and but we'll see. I mean, it's going to depend a lot on how that O-line does. They looked okay in the run game, pass game. They looked all right too, but once again, it's hard to evaluate the entirety of that offense when they only ran 45 plays. And that's exactly what they want to do. And I think that's what they're going to want to do every game. They're going to rely on that defense. They're going to be a little bit like Iowa last year, but with a better quarterback. I don't think we're going to see the Iowa State we've seen the last however many years where, you know, you have a Xavier Hutchinson and Alan Lazard, a Hakeem Butler just go off and have a 1,000-yard season and help carry that offense. You know, maybe a Jaden Higgins or a Jalen Noel becomes that guy for Iowa State. I just don't think so. I think it's gonna matter. Obviously, the offensive line is gonna matter the most. Sebi got hurt. That's too bad. That stinks. Man, he's had a rough year. Yeah, it's going to fully matter on the offensive line, but obviously that tight end room and the running back room is really talented. I mean, the tight ends, Easton Dean, Benjamin Brahmer, Tyler Moore. The 2 tight ends were the ones who caught the passing touchdown. I mean, we're seeing it looks like Iowa State is going to be Iowa last year. Except I think they have one more. They have 2 talented backs instead of 1 talented back compared to Iowa. I don't mind Iowa's backup running backs, but I just don't think it would be interesting to see the rest of the year. But yeah, I mean, I thought that Iowa State did what they had to do. They controlled the clock. They defense dominated, and they blew out UNI to start the year. They were up 20 to nothing. I don't remember 23 nothing at halftime, and then they put it on cruise control the rest of the way, a lot like Iowa. So Iowa has done for the most part under the Kirk Ferentz era is what I'm referring to. But yeah, I like what I saw from Iowa State. That was good stuff. Yeah, we'll get into the matchup here coming up tomorrow. All right, so let's kind of dive into the matchup for tomorrow. It's going to start in the trenches, of course. The thing is that you have 2 inferior O-lines against 2 good defensive lines. Which is why if you're a betting man, and I'm just saying if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I don't bet anymore, and when I did, I wasn't very good at it. But I'd take the under, and I know the over-under is like 35 or 36 right now, which I think is Iowa State's record low, but obviously not Iowa's record low because Iowa is very good at hitting the under on very low very low over-unders, but I would take the under in this one. I think I don't see it getting over 37 points. I would consider that high scoring if the game got that high. that far up there. It's not high, but I think my official prediction is, I mean, I'd have to say Iowa wins 17-10. Pretty vanilla prediction there. I just see Iowa State. They're not gonna move the ball well against Iowa's defense in the run game as well as they did against UNI, in which they didn't they weren't, and they also weren't just absolutely dominating UNI either. So if they would have shred UNI for 200 yards on the ground, I'd be thinking maybe they'd do something more against Iowa. But I think if they kind of adopt maybe that game plan too, Utah State did, and do a lot of screens, a lot of quick hitters in the pass game, and then just try to keep a little steady 3.5 yards of carry on the run game, I think they'll have some success. They'll get into the end zone once, maybe twice, get into field goal range a couple times, maybe make this thing, and obviously Iowa State's the home team too, so that's another good sign for them. That atmosphere is going to be absolutely electric. The man himself, Donald Trump's going to be in the building for probably not the whole game, I would assume, but maybe a quarter. But that's pretty neat. Now I'm digging it. Anyways, I think Iowa's defense is going to overwhelm Iowa State's offense more than Iowa State's offense is going to overwhelm Iowa's. Sorry, I said that wrong. I knew I was going to mess it up the second I started that. I think Iowa's defense is going to overwhelm Iowa State's offense more so than Iowa State's defense is going to overwhelm Iowa's offense. If Cade McNamara was fully healthy, I would say maybe I would be thinking the over, and I would say Iowa maybe more of a 20 or 23-13 or something like that, 23-10, which I still don't think that would even be the over. Just because McNamara can't move all that well right now, and the playbook will be more limited than it already is, because Brian Ferentz and Kirk Ferentz's offense is not a very creative one anyways, so then it's limited down because they have to make sure McNamara is going to be under center a whole lot, because that's not good for a quad squatting to be under center and then driving your legs to do a handoff or play action and stuff like that. So, and I'm hoping, because I thought, Iowa's offensive line, which did look good in pass pro, and I guess this is me thinking that they are going to improve in the run blocking. If Iowa can average 3.5 yards a carry, I think they're going to be good, because I think McNamara is going to get somewhere between 180 and 220 yards passing in this one. If he's healthy throughout, you never know. And maybe throw for a touchdown or two, and then maybe we'll run for a touchdown, and then maybe we'll get a big play in special teams that like we usually do. Now that's less likely now that it looks like Iowa State has shored up their special teams a lot. If that last week was legit, it looked very. I mean, that was maybe the most impressive part of the game was their special teams, with the 56-yard field goal and the 50-some yard punt average, and of course a couple good punt returns as well. So I don't know, we'll see. And I just think Iowa still has the edge. But I mean, right now you're looking at two very similar teams, but they match up pretty much even everywhere. I think if you look at it, tight end room, Iowa holds the edge because they just have more experience, but talent-wise might be pretty even. I think. I mean, as obviously Eric All and Luke Lachey, talent-wise right now, are better than Iowa State's group of tight ends, but I think in a year that Iowa State tight end group is going to be, like, their ceiling is so high, is what I'm trying to say. But both tight end groups are really good. Iowa's got the edge in that. Running back rooms, I actually would give the edge to Iowa State just because with Abu Sama, I think he's a better number 2 back than LaShawn Williams or Jazz Patterson. Wide receivers, I want to give the edge to Iowa, but I'd probably have to give it to Iowa State there. I mean, I think Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, Aiden Bitters. I feel like I'm forgetting some, but I think, Iowa State probably holds the edge. But I think the reason I would give it to Iowa is because the quarterback edge goes to Iowa. I mean, McNamara's played in a Big Ten championship. He's won against Ohio State. Like he's done these things before, and he's been in environments like this before. So that's why I give the edge to Iowa, because I think defenses too are very even. Like secondaries, I think. I'd probably give the edge to Iowa State in the secondary. Cooper DeJean, I think, is definitely one of the best DBs in the country, but TJ Tampa is also one of the best DBs in the country. And then Quinn Schulte is very solid, very good in the back. Xavier Nwampa, uber talented, still young, and not quite as experienced as some of the Iowa State dudes. And same thing with Deshaun Lee, the other corner. So, and depth goes to Iowa State, too, in that secondary. And Jeremiah Cooper's obviously very good. Malik Vernon, big and physical. Bo Freiler's very experienced. And, I forgot the other one again. Miles Purchase, also very good, very experienced. So, secondary edge goes to Iowa State. Defensive line edge, though, Iowa State is also the ceiling very high on them. By the end of the year, could be really good, but the amount of experience and talent and depth along that D-line for Iowa, got to give the edge to Iowa. And then I got to give the linebacker edge to Iowa, too. Two different defenses, but two very good defenses. You got a 4-2-5 for Iowa. You got a 3-3-5 for Iowa State. But, I think overall you give the edge to Iowa in that. I'm actually going to come out and say the special teams is even. We're just going to go with that. Because I think coming into the year, you would say Iowa's is miles ahead with Torrey Taylor, Drew Stevens, and the punt coverage team, the punt return team, the kick return team, the kickoff team. You would definitely, but I think Iowa State's made adjustments. They hired a special teams / running backs coach, but a special teams coach, and they brought in a new kicker. A couple new kickers, I think, maybe 2, but from good old Nebraska, and their punter was really good, and they had a couple good punt returns, as I've said multiple times. So I'll say special teams is even for once. Now, when it comes down to it, and if there is a special teams miscue or big special teams play in this game, who do I think is going to benefit from it? I think it's going to be Iowa. Just because that's the history of this matchup. Until Matt Campbell and company proves me wrong, then that's kind of the way I'm going to lean. But I'm going with Iowa tomorrow for the win. Obviously, it's a little bit of a homer choice and pretty vanilla prediction by an Iowa fan, but I'm thinking 17-10 win for the Hawkeyes. If you made it this far, if you listened to all of it, I really appreciate it. I know it's not the highest quality at all. I say a lot, but appreciate it. God bless y'all, and go Hawks.